Your ideal client is not who you think it is. And today on this podcast, we're going to be talking about exactly why you might have it all wrong. I'm Melissa Franks, your host of the Opt-in podcast, and this is where we go from surviving to thriving in business. One of the very first things that you need to figure out when you start your business is who are you selling to? It's about equal with the what are you selling. They go hand in hand. This is almost a classic chicken and egg scenario inside of business. You can start with the what or you can start with the who. Either way, you need to know both. And conventional thinking in the small business space specifically is that after you've defined your why, that's a podcast for another day, you need to define your ideal client avatar. There are books and courses and coaching galore about how to identify your ICA, how to personalize and get to know your ideal client, how to actually create a persona for who you're selling to. Some coaches tell you to name that person, actually create a visual representation and a storyline around who your client is so that you can sell to them better. The challenge with all of that conventional wisdom and thinking is that it's theoretical. It's what I refer to as business philosophy. It's not grounded in reality. It's not what happens when your feet hit the pavement and you actually need to talk to real humans who may or may not decide to buy your product. What is also true and not talked about is there is not one ICA. Often there are multiple ideal clients depending on what you are selling, the season in which you are selling it, and the messaging, approach, value, pricing, etc. that you have associated with it. Today we're going to bust a few of the myths related to your ideal client. And before we get there, I want to talk to you a little bit about one client that realized they were misguided with who their ideal client was. Now, during this journey, the ideal client was initially started very, very broad. Small business owner. Wow, the addressable target market for that worldwide is millions, if not hundreds of millions. That's freaking amazing. And then as she began to break down really what the specification was around that, what she realized was that it was small business owners who had a desire to grow and scale their businesses faster than they were currently experiencing. Also great, that slimmed it down. And then this is where things started to get muddy. As her business started to be successful, she began to continue to tune who that was. She began to segment her ideal clients. All of them started in that broad group and then they got segmented down. And then as she was doing that work, one of the assumptions that she made was the clients that spend the most with us are the ones we make the most profit from. We need less of them to make more money. That was the assumption. So what she did is she went all in on those clients. They're harder to get. They're more expensive to capture. And then what we realized was once they get what they need, they don't stick around. They take off. Not only that, the way that things were structured, it was not a profitable endeavor. She had spent all of her time and focus and energy on capturing that very top tier of the market, only to realize that there was no recurring revenue potential, that there was no stickiness, that there was great stories and logos and headlines, but in the end, it wasn't very profitable. And during that realization, what we came to realize was that in fact, her business has multiple ideal clients, and that the ones that are the most valuable to the business are the ones that are buying the lowest priced thing. She was chasing the image and vision of the ideal client that she wanted to work with herself, not the one that was best for the business. And so today we're going to talk about how you start, what your first ideal client is, and marriage to that ideal client is so hard to divorce yourself from. So think about it. When you are considering starting a business, you're considering starting a business because you are solving a problem. More than likely, you are solving a problem you are experiencing firsthand. This is applicable across any industry. It is applicable in financial services. It is applicable in product-based businesses. It is applicable in other services-based businesses. Every person that starts a business starts a business because they are trying to solve a problem that they are experiencing. So what that means is that you are the first ICA. If only I had that solution, my life would be so much simpler. If only I had that solution, my life would be so much better. If only I had that solution, I could do X, Y, Z, right? And so that's why you start your business. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you know that based on the categorization of yourself, it can literally be anything. I'm a working mom. It can be that I am an avid car enthusiast. It can be that I'm a small business owner and I want to grow. Like, it does not matter who you are, how you define yourself. That first customer is a mirror image of you. Their pain points are the same. The things that they apply value to are the same. Their price sensitivity is the same. Their lifestyle is the same. It's like you're talking to your twin, and that is okay, because there are people that are going to greatly resemble you out there in the world that if they know about you and your product or service, will buy it. That's where we all start. We all start solving a problem that we ourselves are experiencing, and we want to ensure that we can solve it for other people. That's really as simple as it gets. And here's the deal. You know best because you're the one experiencing the pain point. So you know exactly how much you would pay for something, how much it would change your life. You know exactly how you would want somebody to explain it to you and sell it to you. And you know best. You know the value of what you are selling. And once you get into the marketplace, and let's say in a perfect world that some of your twins out there in the world actually buy from you, you have a growing, viable business. Here's the thing. Most of us don't have readily accessible to us people that think like us, act like us, do what we do, and have the same pain points that we have. It's just not reality. So unless you have the ability to really become known in the marketplace very, very quickly, and people just, you're famous and people want to buy anything that you're selling, you have to consider something else. And that's the very first myth, is the ideal client is not you. It's not. You are not your ICA for your business. You may think you're your ICA for your business, and your founder story is amazing. And you should absolutely carry that founder story with you. The reality is that your ICA is different. The demographics are different. Their pain points are different. Their wants and needs are different. Their reasons to buy are different. Their value allocation is different. Their price sensitivity is different. Your ICA is different. And so what that means is that in order for you to determine who your ICA is, you have to experiment. You have to make educated assumptions. You have to go out into the world and actually talk to people. It is necessary for you to try and fail, try and succeed in order to develop the point of view and perspective around who your ICA is. Now, as you are blowing open your mind and understanding that you are not the ICA, the next thing that I want to tell you is an absolute myth, is that you must define your ICA before you do anything else in your business. As we just talked about, you're actually pretty clueless around who your ICA is. If you can come with me through the journey and realize, hey, I'm not the ICA, so I don't actually know who the ICA is. It's like saying out into the world somewhere in your early 20s, I plan to get married and have kids one day, but you have no idea who you're going to get married to. This is kind of the same thing. You have declared you're solving a problem and you're going to have a business around it and you're going to help people, yet you don't know who those people are yet that you're going to help. Here's the rub. This is where the chicken and egg thing comes in. If you sit around and you wait to define who your ICA is, you're not going to be selling anything. And if you start trying to sell things and you don't know who your ICA is, you may also not try to sell things. And so one could ask me at this point, Melissa, what am I supposed to do? If in both of those scenarios, the outcome could be that nothing happens, or the outcome could be that something amazing happens, what do I do? And my answer to you is, if you want to have a business, shouldn't you bet on yourself? Shouldn't you just start selling and figure it out? Because you'll get feedback either way. If you go out into the world and you say, hey, I have created this invention, and you know what it does is it lines your trash can for you every time you take one out. So you take out a bag of trash and then automatically the trash can is lined again. How many of you guys have ever had to struggle with a trash can because the trash bags do not fit snugly, right? That would be great. Somebody go invent that, would you? So that's your invention. You think maybe that is going to be targeted at the housewife. She's going to love this. It's going to save her so much time and frustration. It's going to make things so much easier. And so you start targeting the housewife. You're like, this is exactly like the scrub daddy sponge. I'm going to go for it, right? And then all of a sudden what you realize is that it's not the housewife that is struggling with the garbage. It's actually the house husband, because the wife has delegated that task. I am talking super stereotypical gender roles just for the purposes of this example. And in fact, you need to completely change who your ICA is. It's not the housewife, it's the house husband. And the only way that you know that is by trying to target the housewife with this amazing thing that you're selling. And then maybe once you've realized, oh, it's the wrong gender role in the household that I'm marketing to, then you start marketing to the right one. And then all of a sudden you realize, like, dang it, like these aren't selling the way that I thought that they would. What's going on? And you go out into the world and you talk to the people that bought and you talk to the people that don't. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, it's the price point. Or, oh, it's the color. Or, oh, they would prefer if they were scented. You know, those Febreze garbage cans, like whatever it might be. But here's the thing, is that you can absolutely define an ICA before you sell anything and then chase them to the ends of the earth and go through all of the rigmarole, or you can test. And that's what I recommend. If you're not going to be a chameleon with the thing that you're selling, if you're not going to one day be selling trash cans that self-line and then the next day sell dishwash soap that gets every stain or stuck on thing off of your dishes, then you know that the iteration for your business is going to come around the ICA. And so doesn't it make much more sense to put your invention out there into the world and then start experimenting with various ICAs until you hit it big? That's why my recommendation to you is to actually determine what you're going to sell first and then test who you're selling it to until you find the right answer. Of course, this is overly simplified because it's going to be a little bit of a who are you selling it to and at what price and how are you talking to them? And there are so many other things related to this that we aren't going to get into. My recommendation to you is to not spend your time defining something in theory. It's to put something actually out into the marketplace and then test who wants to buy it. Another myth is that your ICA stays the same forever. It doesn't. It absolutely does not. Your ICA is going to evolve over time. Your ICA may actually expand, or you may find that in the analogy that I just gave, that initially the attention that you capture is from people that live in homes that need to replace their garbage. And then all of a sudden what you realize is that big corporations actually want to buy your invention because it's going to save them on cleaning costs of their businesses. Can you imagine if the people that cleaned offices and took out the garbage every day didn't have to replace the liner every week? Or they didn't do what they usually do, which is they leave a gross liner in there for a week and only do it once. It would increase efficiency. It would increase throughput. They would have less labor they'd have to pay for cleaning. So what might end up happening over time is that, like, while you have a residential offering, you may actually have a commercial offering you didn't realize that you had. And so over time, your product stays the same. Fundamentally, it has not changed. It's the exact same thing that you are selling. It's a self-lining garbage can. However, your ideal client completely evolves into something else, and then that could impact your pricing and other components, right? But don't stay married to the I defined my ICA at the very beginning, or I figured out who my ICA was and I'm going to run this to the ends of the earth and I'm never going to deviate. You want to keep your awareness up because your ICA may change over time. A really great example of this, Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, is that many of the small businesses are services-based businesses, and those that are in business for a very long time and see scalable growth do that because they realize that if they sell to the bigger businesses or the more affluent individuals, that things are easier. Profit margin is better. The deals may be harder to come by, but they're sticky and they stay for a really long time. And what Alex talks about a lot is that at the lower levels, that's where you see a lot of churn. That's where you see a lot of people try something and then they disappear. Something happens to them and they don't have the disposable income to do the thing anymore. And he really talks through exactly why, as you were considering who you're marketing to, that there are more of a sure thing and a sure bet, and there's more complexity. So at the lower end, if you're a value-based business, you're just going to have a lot more volume. And if you are a top tier priced high ticket sort of situation, you're going to have lower volume and you're going to have longer retention. It's just a trade-off. Not one is better than the other, but those are things to consider and think about. And so as your business changes and evolves, your ICA will change and evolve too. It doesn't mean that you won't find one more valuable than the other and spend more time with one or the other, but you want to keep your eyes open to the feedback, the buying behaviors, the data around who your clients are so that you can determine when it makes sense to reevaluate who your ICA is. Now, following that, another myth is that your ICA is the same for all products. It's just not true. It's absolutely just not true. Now, if you're a product-based business, this is really easy to understand because some people are going to buy cleaning products and other people are going to buy housewares or however your company is structured. Like if you think about a business like Target, imagine how many ICAs Target Corporation has. Just imagine for a minute. Look at all of the things that they sell. They say they sell toys. You know who their ICA is? Kids. You know who doesn't have money? Kids. But do you know who makes the buying decisions related to toys? Kids. They have housewares appliances. That's the adults in the house. That's not the kids. They have clothing. That could be anybody, depending on what department and what season and what they're selling and all of the things, right? They have seasonal items. Somebody that really cares a ton about Halloween is going to be an ICA during that period, but maybe they don't care so much about Thanksgiving. If you think of large corporations and all of the things that they sell, they have multiple ICAs and they're highly segmented around what they sell. So if you sell multiple things, you have multiple ICAs. Let me say that again. If you sell multiple things, you have multiple ICAs. Full stop. Stop thinking that you have one. You might for now, if you are brand new and you sell one thing. As soon as you start to sell 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, and this even goes to if you're just changing the pricing, you have multiple ICAs. You need to pay attention. They want you to talk to them different. They want you to offer things differently. Their pain points are different. What's valuable to them is different. They are all intrinsically different. And you want to keep an eye out for how many you have. At some point, you're going to overextend yourself. And you know what happens is confused buyers don't buy. So if you end up in a land where there are so many ICAs, Target is a good example of this right now. They're marketing to so many people that their business is shrinking. I just spoke about this to a couple of different markets through TV interviews because what's happening is Target grew by acquisition and now they're shrinking like crazy because they don't know who their customer is. It's like they lost their identity. They don't know who they're supposed to be talking to. So they're throwing spaghetti at the wall and their company is shrinking. So that could be you too. So you want to be very, very careful. You're going to refine your ICA over time. You're likely going to have more than one. And if you get too many, you become diluted. And when you become diluted, people get confused. When people get confused, people don't buy. Okay? Confused people don't buy. So the last one that I want to talk to you about is that your ICA may be seasonal. Consider that. If you are in the product-based business and you sell year-round, some of you don't, you sell year-round, who you sell to in the holiday period may be different than you sell to the rest of the year. Here's an example. Last year, I started working with an e-commerce business right before holiday started. And we were talking about all of the sales they were going to run and the marketing campaigns, all the things. And my question was, well, who are we selling to? Are we selling to gift givers? Or are we selling to people just looking for a deal and buying themselves stuff? Nobody could answer the question. And specifically, this was a pet product business. So the bigger question was, are we selling to gift givers that own pets and know that these products are amazing? Are we selling to gift givers that are just trying to give a gift to somebody who has a pet in their life? Or are we selling to people that have pets and they just want a good deal? Like, those are 3 different ICAs. We have to talk to them incredibly differently. We have to message differently. They have different price sensitivity. They understand perceived value differently. Nobody knew. And so what happened is we had this completely diluted marketing campaign that was like trying to communicate to everybody. And the one thing that we do know is that advertising gets your attention because it speaks to you. Because there is something in that ad that you're like, oh, that's me. You can solve my problem. Let me stay here for a minute. Nobody has patience for anything anymore. Attention is down to like 3 seconds. And so what we know is that hook, that beginning of anything, whether it's an Instagram post or it's a paid ad or it's a conversation, has to include, I understand you and I can help you. And it needs to be specific to the person that you're talking to. So in this seasonal example that I gave, if you don't know if you're selling to the gift giver that has pets and is like, this is the best thing ever, or the gift giver that doesn't have pets and just wants to give somebody that has a pet a gift, or the person looking for a deal, guess what? You're going to lose all of them because you're not talking to any of them. Confused buyers don't buy. So look at your business. If there is seasonality, if your business gets really busy during back to school, consider who's making buying decisions then. Is it the kid that wants the really cool binder and the parent is just the cash? You really have to take a look at your business and the seasonal trends and then make a decision about how you're going to market, how you're going to communicate, and who you're targeting at that time. It is perfectly acceptable for your ICA to change by season. What is not acceptable is for you to just keep piling on and hope for the best. That's when your business will shrink. It's when it will stall. It's when you will get frustrated yourself. And it's because it's a myth that your ICA stays the same for all of the seasons. So we just talked through a bunch of myths. I want to talk about what is true just so that we can pin it and seal it. The first thing that is true is that the market will tell you who buys and doesn't buy by what they're actually doing and the reasons for it. So the market's going to tell you, you have to get out into the world. And if people aren't buying, then you ask why. You make changes. If people are buying, you want to know what made that decision to happen, and so you can do more of it. But the market is going to tell you. You're not going to be able to figure that out yourself. There is no book, there is no journal, there is no coach out there in the world that's going to help you determine before you test anything whether or not people are going to buy it or not. You actually have to try to sell it. You do. And then you have to see what works and what doesn't, and who comes in and who doesn't, and then you make adjustments. The next thing that is true is that you need to be seeking feedback and reviews to iterate your ICA. You need to be paying amazingly detailed attention to buyer behavior. You need to understand geographic region. You need to understand age. You need to understand gender if that's important to you. You need to understand how many touch points they need before they buy. You need to understand if they purchase from their phone or from a website. You need to understand if they need to talk it through or they just make an impulse buy. You have to get so much feedback, and that feedback comes from humans and data. The more data you can track about the buyer behavior, the more patterns you'll be able to identify, and then you will be able to fine-tune your ICA and make better decisions about messaging, marketing, advertising, etc. You have to pair the two things, real feedback from real humans and the data that you're able to gather to understand what's actually happening and when an iteration for your ICA is necessary. As we talked about earlier, the next thing that is true is that you have more than one ICA. It just is true. Even if you sell one product, there's more than one ICA. Suss it out. Discover who it is. You have more addressable target market when you know who your ICAs are. Spend time collecting information. Spend time observing. Spend time talking to real humans out there in the world. You will get feedback and you will find additional avatars you didn't know existed. And then the last truth is that your ICA is going to evolve. It will not stay the same. As I mentioned at the very, very top, your very original ICA is you. It's the twin of you. And that ICA dies fastest because there's not a lot of twins of you. And you will continue to iterate from there and evolve. You will learn things about your business. You will change your messaging. Heck, the world changes. There are people out there in the marketplace today that were like rabid Temu purchasers. And now that tariffs have made that really, really difficult, they're looking for like the same sort of deal that they could get there, but stateside. So that could kick open a new potential target market for you. What you want to make sure is that you are having an evolved conversation about your ideal client and who you're targeting. You want to be collecting data. You want to be gathering facts. You want to take the emotion out of it. You want to talk to real humans and really figure out who exactly will benefit from what you are trying to sell. There is a lot of misconceptions about ideal client, how to do that work. And the reality is that the only way you're going to know who wants to buy your stuff is by trying to sell it. I hope this was helpful to you. The best way to support this podcast is to rate, review, and subscribe. I appreciate your support so very much. And if you know a business owner that is working through this topic right now, that's trying to retool or figure out who their ideal client is, do me a favor and share this episode with them. The goal, after all, is for all of us to be successful in business. And the only way to do that is when we actually sit down and we tell the truth. Until next time, friends, please know that you are wise, you are strong, and you are capable, and I believe in you.